Hello. Today I'm going to be presenting on two TDG grants. The first one is building integrated textbooks. And actually, what I'm reporting on today is phase 2 and phase 3. But in fact, we did complete a phase 1 a couple of years ago. And before that, we actually had a mobile learning project that actually facilitated and actually was the catalyst for all of this. So I'm going to give you a brief little look back at our timeline. Back in 2010 to 2012, we had an iMobile project that I gave all my students iPhone 5s in my public speaking class. And we were looking, the TLC and myself, at ways that we could develop or integrate this mobile technology to enhance language learning in a university context. So all of the materials that I used to deliver to my students via textbooks was now converted to an online model. And it was deliverable through their iPhone. And we also set out to research how students would use these iPhones to create content for the course. Based upon that research, in 2012, we gave iPads. We were given the first iPad phase 1 for integrating it. And the reason we went this route is my department seal was given 100 iPads as a part of a project. So we wanted to find ways to utilize these and to see how much they could actually extend mobile learning into the classroom. So we moved from my small public speaking class into the core courses that SEAL offers, LCE 1010, 1020, and 2010, 2 are first year courses and 1 is a second year course. Now, based on the first set of iPads, we just created PDF files because that's all we were using when we had the mobile phones. But we also preloaded them with a range of different language learning apps. And we wanted to canvass our students to see what they were actually utilizing, what they found beneficial for the iPad, and what they didn't like. And from there, that's where we built our first project proposal. After that, ebook phase 1 ran for 2013 and 2014, and that just dealt with LCE 1010. Based upon the feedback that we received from students and its success, it was extended in phase 2 and phase 3 was implemented until just this year, where it just ended in June. So the research actually adopted this position that mobility is an intrinsic property of learning. So we looked at the spatial, the temporal, and the developmental needs of the students. First our developmental objectives was to integrate the ebooks with our text, our exercises. That means integrating exercise sets that were interactive that actually included the answers. So actually students could work offline. They didn't need to come to class and for us to check their comprehension or see if they did their homework. We sort of wanted to put more student learning, students more in charge of their own learning. And then we wanted to embed all multimedia files. Now you have to understand, at this time when we started developing this project, iPhones were just relatively new, iPads were relatively new, students were still coming to class with traditional text and pen and paper. So we had to sort of figure out how we are going to entice students to use these devices. And the one thing we wanted to do is to make it completely offline. So although the packages were rather large at that time, maybe up to 1 gigabyte, because they were downloaded onto the iPad, they could use it on the bus going home. They didn't need any Wi-Fi or internet to access the video files, to do the answer comprehensions, etc. So in addition, we designed some widgets which allowed them to highlight. There was an interactive whiteboard that they could work collaboratively with their teammates, and there was an onboard dictionary. And then finally, we inserted some additional materials, so when they were online, they could do external links, let's say to our IACOSA exercises that would help them do some additional language exercises related to the units they were studying. So when we asked our students what they liked about the ebooks, of course, number 1 was portability and mobility, and then the convenience and instant access. In fact, students really liked everything we developed. We didn't really have a complaint from any of the research groups that we interviewed, and that also we canvassed via polls after every semester. When we talked about mobility, and that was our main focus of the group, we can see that 93% found it important to somewhat important to very important, which is a lot. And from this time, this is when the technology explosion started to happen. So we saw rapid changes not only with the way our students would use the iPads, more content was becoming available online, more apps were being developed, but also more devices were being developed. So now students were actually having access to more devices outside of the iPad. Now, before I move forward, the reason we used the iPad was primarily because of security. At that time, iPad was the first device. iOS is more secure than Android. So we wanted to protect our users and protect our university infrastructure here from any viruses or any type of attacks. So, how useful did they find those exercises that were integrated with the answer sets? 96.73% felt them very, very useful to somewhat useful. The highlighting, again, highlighting is very common, so among students, I was surprised that it actually received less than just under 80% support from students, because normally they just like to go through all their text and highlight it, whether it be a traditional text or even a PDF file. The multimedia was one of the most well received at 94%. So this way they could view the videos that actually we watched in class, the auxiliary materials that we had to help support that learning, and they could do it over and over again to actually go further and extend their listening skills, their comprehension skills. And although it was in beta testing throughout the whole 4 years, most of them were overall impressed, 72%, with the design and the function and the features. Now, this was surprisingly, is although they liked the ebook, some of the students still prefer to have text. And that's even today in my classes. Most students now will come in with a laptop. However, I still have 1 or 2 students in every class that still need to have those traditional pen and paper. They'll rather print off a PDF than rather access it online. So some of the pros and the cons of this project were students liked the way it was adaptable and interactive. We could actually utilize the iPad and the ebook in class. So if it was in class, they were focused on the ebook because all the materials were located here. So we didn't have to worry about them, let's say, accessing a PDF file, then having the option of going outside of that and, let's say, checking their Facebook or going online. We could have everything in a controlled environment. So this way students had to be in the program while we were teaching. It was flexible, powerful, added a lot of mobility and portability, which students really liked because they could utilize it, access it, listen to it for the 10, 15 minutes in between a class on a break if they came early. They could do it going home. It was cost effective and it was collaborative. Cons. Some students are very technophobic. They don't want to take the time to learn how to use something. They try to jump right into it. And then when they find it to be a little too complicated, they'll just revert back to their old methods, old ways of doing things. Sometimes you have overzealous faculty that expect it to do more right away. And you can't meet the needs of everybody, the demands. And the cost. At the time when we set this up, we were looking, and this is the old administration. When I say old administration. And we were working, when we did get the funding for the iPhones, we were working towards getting a deal with Apple to give actually every freshman an iPad. So this way, that's how we started getting funding for the ebooks, because we wanted to check their effectiveness, how students would use them. And then we wanted the university to fund the cost of an iPad for every student that came in. Every freshman. And then that way, that would actually help spur other faculty to develop ebooks because they were becoming more cost efficient than producing a traditional text. And actually now you know there's many of the publishers allow you to take chapters from different texts and create your own online version or ebook version. So the technology developed so fast over the last 8 years, we started falling behind. We were leaders, and then we were, looking beside us, and then we were looking in front. So that's how fast this technology changed, and we didn't know if it was going to happen like this. So another thing happened is administration changed, and we couldn't get funding for the iPads, even if the university prorated the cost over the 3-4 years that the students would come. So that was another problem. So now we have this great ebook, but now only maybe about a third of the students can use it. And at that time that we got our iPads, they were iPads 3. And 3 months after we got them, they became obsolete because that's when Apple came out with a new version. For the first time, they introduced 2 versions of iPads in 1 year. So now they're what we call bricks. They can't be updated. They became obsolete this year. So there's no way I can give students an iPad because it's so outdated. It's now 8 years old. Do any of you have a phone that is 8 years old on you today? How old is your phone? So that is the problem, is technology is changing so rapidly that it's very hard for us to keep up as education content developers. So in summary for the ebook project, again, we wanted these devices. We knew at that time that ubiquitous devices were going to infiltrate academia, that there was going to be this big shift. I went with the then head of the TLC to the EDB, and they actually were looking for people to create content for the secondary school system because they envisioned that 100% of the secondary school systems by 2014 would actually have ebooks instead of traditional textbooks. Now, as the project progressed, as I mentioned, more and more players entered the market, and many of the tools that we developed became readily available and much cheaper. See, when you're creating something and people get wind of it, then they try to copy it, they try to emulate it, and then they make it better. And that being said, the data trends do indicate that students are more willing to switch to an electronic version. Actually, you can see it in your classes today. Most of them do come with a laptop. The problem with the laptop is it's still too big for the little desk or the tables that we have in our lecture halls. Even though the iBook that we did use on the platform was only available for the iPad when we first developed, and then 3 years ago, Apple extended that so it could be used on a MacBook as well. So they did actually extend how we could utilize that platform. Key features that were received by the participants were integrated multimedia files, exercise sets, which afforded them the opportunity to review, revise, and work independently, both on and offline. Limitations. Again, as I mentioned, we had a lot of constraints with this program because we only had 100 iPads in our department. I could not access all 100. They had to be available for other people. So I was given the access to 60 iPads, which is a total of 3 classes. Another problem is we just shifted to the 334, and as we have a core course that deals with every student every year, we have to make constant revisions. Not only do we have to make constant revisions every year, because our staff is only on a 10-month contract, nobody is here from mid-June to mid-August. So there's no way to actually have any of the materials updated in time for the new semester start. So at that time, we only ran 1 pilot of 1010. Well, no, two pilots of 1010, 1 pilot of 1020, and then the rest have been 4 pilots of 2010 because that is offered in the first semester and the second semester. So we could make changes in September and then roll things out in the second semester to try them out again. So another thing, and the final thing, is nowadays every student has a device, but they have their preferences. So because the university, or we did not find backing to support one facet, which is, let's say, iOS or even Android, then you can't satisfy all students' needs because they're not cross-platform. We still would stay with iOS because it's more secure. It actually offers more functionality than Android, and it's less buggy. That being said, if you create an ebook nowadays and you want to integrate multimedia, you have to go really on iOS. You can't go across platform. If you just wanted to create a traditional ebook just with pictures and questions, then you can go both routes, Android and iOS. But really, for now, if you wanted to make it media rich and engaging and interesting for the students, you have to take that extra step. You have to pick a format and you have to get students on board. So that's the end of part one. I'll answer questions all at the end. The second one's not that long. A year ago, as I'm the coordinator for the English Language Support Service, we got a grant to develop an online booking system as well as online discussion board. So the rationale, the reason we needed an online booking system is scheduling flexibility. Previously, we utilized Moodle and a face-to-face. I don't know if any of you have scheduled appointments on Moodle and face-to-face, but it takes a lot of time. And the reason, and you'll get, when I get to the numbers, you'll see how much time it actually did take. Also, we wanted to create something that's customizable. Moodle is very limited. You can add in what category, where it's going to take place, and how many students are allowed to book at a certain time. And not only that, is every semester we had to do it all over again. Because as you know, you can't save something from one semester, especially when it's in a face-to-face, it doesn't carry over. Your course content can carry. You can save your course content in Moodle, and then you can re-upload it into the next semester, but you can't do it with a face-to-face. So every semester we had to spend hours upon hours loading this content. We wanted more access control. Moodle is fine, but there we had to create a Moodle course for everybody. And we had to wait till after the add drop period, and then it had to be done through ITS. So here, if we just use the CAS registration system from the university, just anybody can log in as long as they have a LeBane email address, student or faculty. And we didn't have to wait for ITSC and the add drop period to make sure that students were registered or not. Finally, we were allowed to monitor our attendance this way. We could see exactly who was booked. If they attended, we could mark them absent or not absent. And also, we had the ability to block users, to remove them from the system, to ban them for abuse. Abuse in our words are, if you miss 2 appointments, you're banned. We have a waiting list system. So if a student, if a session is booked, there's a waiting list. So if somebody, let's say, cancels an appointment, the first one on the waiting list automatically moves up and an email will be sent to them. The problem is if you cancel an appointment 20 minutes before your scheduled time, it's very hard for that student. As you know, they don't really check their LeBane email addresses. I think my host daughter, I checked today, she has 20,000 unread emails. So, we do our best. We've heard, oh, why don't you do WeChat integration? And, we're not here to really push students. Students should have some time management skills. We send out a reminder, but the minute you make an appointment, you get an email, you can add it to your calendar. It's up to them to ensure that they can make an appointment. So we wanted to have a little bit more flexibility. So, hello. Oh, and we wanted it to be user-friendly. Is this still on, or did I turn it on? Okay. So this is a look at our website. We redesigned our website. Our discussion board is there. This is our booking system. So this would be the link to the booking system. These are our other things that we offer. It is available. I have the link, I think, at the end. So, for example, in this term, this is what the booking page looks like when you click on it. These are our academic services. On the bottom 3 rows would be our social services. Social would be movie nights, dinner, English conversation series, or our TEDx. But for academic, they would book for a one-on-one session writing tutorial or a speaking studio, academically speaking, chat room, academic reading, and IELTS practicum are all group sessions up to 4 to 5 students. So in the first term of this year, we did 3,472 bookings. Last year, we had 1,987 for the entire academic year. So we've more than doubled what we've done in a whole academic year in one semester. So adding more flexibility has added a lot of more pressure on me because now my vets are a little bit overworked. But it does show that having a booking system that's accessible, that's a one online stop for all their English language needs, does get us noticed a lot more. We can also add sessions automatically and then promote them via any of our social networking channels. So it's worked out pretty good. So the discussion board, the rationale behind this, I can't use, this is dying, so I'll just use my finger, to provide an online forum for students. Now, we do have a lot of channels. One of the most well-received aspects of the ELSS is our drop-in center that students can come in without an appointment, sit down, ask any question, deal with any English problem they want with a visiting English tutor. It's open 5 days a week, but sometimes students don't want to come in or they can't come in. We did try Skype a long time ago and it didn't really work, so we envision, you know, students are very active and vocal these days. Maybe if we had a discussion forum where they could actually post some questions and get feedback from the vets, it would be very useful. So, although the online booking system went into beta last semester, and then we revised it and did some tweaks over the summertime, the discussion board just came on board this semester. So we wanted real-time discussions, questions and forums, and it was monitored, and it is monitored by our visiting English tutors, offering another channel, communication. Now, let me just go previous. Previous. Thank you. The problem here is students really haven't embraced it. We tried promoting it. We wrote an article on it in our English Express, which is our monthly newsletter, showing them what the discussion board is for, highlighting how they could utilize it to their benefit, and still we haven't gotten one comment this semester. So we have to find ways to promote it. We are creating a new video for students because we've had some issues with our booking system with students booking too many appointments and having no-shows. For example, we had a 78% attendance rate, and so that's a 32% no-show, and we banned a lot of students, and it's going to affect them academically because they need to use it through our 3 SEAL Core courses. But essentially, you know, that's something, you know, you envision something is going to be well received, and it's not until you get it out there that you know if it's a hit or a miss. So we want to make it a hit. We just have to figure out how to get the students utilizing it. So now I can take some questions and answers on, I'll give the answers, on any part of the first presentation or the second one.